Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall
What's up, everybody?
and Michael Reed.
Hello there, all you cool cats and kittens.
And we're also joined by special guest Bram Weinstein, the new play-by-play broadcaster for the Washington football team. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Bram.
I will always make time for Montgomery County people. What's up? How are
There
you?
you go. There you go.
Loco Moco, representing very well on the Burgundy Zone tonight, Bram. And so the first thing we have to say is congratulations on the job, on being able to be the play-by-play commentator. So I have to ask you, how excited are you to be able to work with Julie D. Hall and London Fletcher?
Can't wait, man. I mean, this is, I used to pretend I was Frank Herzog when I was a kid. And so this is really surreal. I've had a lot of experience. I've been very lucky to be in and around the team and work on the broadcast through the years and do a lot of coverage of them. And I was a sideline reporter on the broadcast, some time ago. But this is different and it's really special. And, what I really like about it is all really new. Everything's new. We got a new coach. They got a new name coming. There's a whole new brand coming. Like everything about it is new. And so I think that leaves some room for us to be creative and do a new broadcast. And, in my early discussions with Julie, like she's really thinking about this in a very modern way. And I'm really excited about it. I think, in the end, we still have to call the game and you still have to describe the plays. But I do think there's room to modernize it. And we're going to figure that out over the next however many weeks.
Yes. And so, Bram, I have to ask, you're a Washington football team fan, correct?
Yeah, you want to see some of my stuff? You want to see my favorite piece of memorabilia? Actually?
Yes, actually I do.
So when I was at ESPN, the Hogettes retired. You remember that? The
Yeah.
Hogettes retired. Right. So they saw a piece I did on SportsCenter, and they sent me an official Hogettes snout.
Oh, no way.
No way.
Signed. Yeah.
Signed
so
by
like,
everybody.
that's like my favorite thing. And then let's see, when I was previously on the Redskins radio network, I got all the guys to sign this ball. So that's
okay.
Buddy
Awesome.
Jurgensen, Sam Huff,
Oh,
Dexter
wow.
Manley, Joe Jacoby, Larry Michaels. Very cool. So fan is an understatement for what I was. Like I went to RFK as a kid. Sundays in my house were very special. And I think why this particular position is so special to me is it's the team I care about.
Right.
And I've always cared about, and they're like family to me. And, any position like this would have been a great honor, but this one in particular, it means so much to me. I can't even really describe it.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, because I was going to go into the history of you being a fan of the Washington football team. So I have to ask, was there a player that you idolized growing up as a Washington football team player?
So I'm probably a lot older than you guys, but because I got to grow up during the glory era. I mean, like the 80s and 90s, like I was in elementary school and into like middle school and high school when they were winning Super Bowls and being in the playoffs every single year. And so when I was a kid, I loved Gary Clark. I loved Gary Clark, and I loved Dexter Manley. Like they were by far my two favorite players on the team. But, there's a lot to like about that era. And then, like one of the things I got lucky to do in my career was covered the team when Joe Gibbs was the coach again. And, here's the guy that I'm a kid, watching and looking at and going, this is, in my opinion, the greatest NFL coach of all time.
Yep.
And there I was doing a show with him, like years later. So there's a lot of surreal, kind of nature to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to hear that. And I wanted to ask, the Washington football team announced recently that there will be a scrimmage on the 27th at FedEx Field. And Julie kind of alluded to it possibly being broadcasted in a way or streamed for fans. Can you kind of give us an idea on what to expect on the 27th?
Yeah, we're going to do it. I don't know the schedule yet. I think it's going to be about an hour and a half. I haven't seen the full schedule yet. It's inter squad, so no other team is going to be there. And I think it's just going to give us the opportunity, one, for us to get to work together. And two, there's no preseason and training camp isn't open. And this is weird. I mean, it's a really weird year. I mean, like the best we can do at this point is tweet out a couple of pictures of guys on the field. What does that mean to anybody,
Right.
So like we're excited for this, for everyone just to see this. I mean, it's going to be a glorified practice. So I don't think there's going to be a lot more to really glean from what's happening. But I think it's going to be good for everyone to see what Dwayne Haskins' body really looks like. And I think it's going to be good for everyone to actually get a look at Chase Young. and see what Gandy Golden looks like and how they may use Antonio Gibson and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of merit in doing it. And for us, I think it's just because there's no preseason, I'm looking forward to this will be the first time that the public gets to see the new team.
Right. And one thing us fans, I think we all really appreciate is those pictures, even though I know it's just a little picture that people tweet out from training camp, but we love it. We all look way too much into it. But, we overanalyze every tweet that's sent out.
Right.
So getting into the training camp a little bit, I know you went on Tuesday. What player kind of caught your eye or somebody that fans might not expect to produce that has really kind of shined?
So, like having done this for so long, like there are these guys that have these good days.
Right.
And so the guy who had the good day was Ronald Darby. So if you're just going to put somebody out and go, all right, like here's a guy who's a veteran who's coming in here, is probably going to have a role on this team and may even be like the number 2 corner for that matter.
Right.
Like, may end up playing that way. At least for a day, he looked pretty good. What does that mean now? I don't know.
Right.
The real first impression is seeing Chase Young in person. It is like, he's a monster.
That's exactly what Julie said.
He's a monster.
Yeah, Julie said when she met him, she was like, okay, I get it.
Until you see it, like the last time I saw this was LeVar Arrington, where he was so much more physically imposing than the other people in his position group that you're like, I am so glad that guy's on my team. Like, because he is a literal giant. I mean, he is a head above most of the other defensive linemen. He's enormous. And, I'm hoping, that the skill set that he learned at Ohio State, which obviously worked for the Bosa's, works for him too. Right. And, we may have for the first time in a while, a legitimate pass rush, Khalil Mack, JJ Watt type of presence on our defense. And, for me personally too, like, I'm biased a little bit now, but I think we have an embarrassing amount of talent on the defensive line now.
Yes.
Yep.
And that unit, could be the reason why I think this team's going to be more competitive than I think people think they're going to be this year.
Yeah, and they're being put on the bottom of a lot of lists as of late, and they're being forgotten about. And look, this team generally does better when not much is expected of them. Now, Bram, over the week, the Washington football team just took America by storm by hiring the first ever African-American president of an NFL franchise in Jason Wright. I have to get your immediate reaction to that hiring.
So I've only spoken to him once. I don't know him. We didn't have any history together. I only spent about 15 minutes talking to him. He's very impressive. He's very smart. And when he answers a question, it is like how a Harvard grad would answer a question. And his reputation precedes himself. And he's got a lot of work in front of him. I mean, this is probably a really, interesting job. And it's also a daunting one at the same time. I mean, there's so much that he has to work on. A new stadium, getting people back to FedEx Field, dealing with a new brand without losing the traditions and nostalgia that have made the team important for so long, to cleaning up a mess where skeptics are going to say, see, those guys are just dysfunctional and in some cases have a horrible workplace. So he's got a lot, on his plate to deal with. And I'd tell you more about him, but I just don't know him well enough. All I can say is, just like with Chase Young, my first impression was very impressive. And, hopefully, I do feel like things are different. Like, I've been around the team inside the building for a long time, 20 years. And I've seen how it operates. And I will tell you, in the limited interaction, thanks to COVID, because we're not allowed to, freely walk around like we used to, it's different. Like, they've made changes, like real tangible changes. Does that mean they're going to start winning? I don't know. But I do feel like there are different people there with different sensibilities and different motivations. And all of that is added up to me that hopefully there's going to be some brighter days on the record, as we move forward here.
Yeah, love to see that. Speaking of Jason Wright, and you were mentioning about how he's going to he's taking upon the task of rebranding the team, the new name and all that stuff. I was just going to ask, do you have a favorite name? I know everyone's going crazy over Red Wolves and people like Warriors. So I was just going to say, do you have a favorite name, if any?
I actually want them to keep this, but I think I'm in the minority of it. I like this. It's gone now and I get it, but I am attached to their name. And I think we all know that we never intended it the way that, it was taken, and it was time for it to change. And I understand that, but if you don't change the name, it never changed. So I kind of like Washington football team. And I don't know if it's going to stick or not, but I do kind of like it. And I do like the uniforms and the helmet. Like,
Love the helmet.
like what I was concerned about was that they were going to make this like very modern thing and just kind of run away from their past because of all the changes.
Right.
And I really thought what they did for, at least for now as a placeholder, was pretty good. Like it hung on to nostalgia. Like that's a good look for them.
Yeah.
And so, we'll see how people feel about it. I'm assuming they're going to come up with a name. And I just like, I don't know. I'm off of Red Wolves. That sounds very cartoonish to me.
Thank you.
I
We've
really,
been saying that this whole time.
I'm out on that one. I don't like that one, but everything else, we'll see where they land. I'm just glad they didn't do it fast. I think that it was silly when everyone was saying like, we got to come up with a new name tomorrow.
Within 3
you're
weeks.
going to rename a $3.5 billion brand over like what? Like, who does that? Like that's ridiculous. So I'm glad that they slowed the process down.
The one thing I will say that you alluded to is the uniforms is people. It's been well received around the country. Like I've seen memes that are just making jokes about it. Like, how come this team changed their uniform in 3 weeks and it's already looking better than the Falcons' new uniforms or the Rams' new uniforms? So that's good that they're at least getting some recognition.
I mean, they're an old traditional team. Like I think they need to embrace that. Like whatever their name is, like don't lose the traditions of it.
Yeah.
Like, the Giants did this years ago when they went back to the old look with the NY. They used to have the block Giants on their letters. It looks good. Like, they look like an old tradition. They're an old traditional NFL franchise. Like, I like the nostalgia of it. We're not the Jaguars. Y'all want to go Oregon, have at it. But, like, that's not us. Like, no. We've been here for a minute.
Right.
Respect that.
So, Bram, I have to ask you, you being a lifelong Washington football fan, you know what the atmosphere and what around the organization, what it's been like. Time after time, Shanahan gets hired. We think, here's the hope. This team is actually finally turning around. Snyder took his hands off things. Then that turned into a sour situation. Then Scott McCloughan gets hired, and okay, this is it. Now here's hope. Things have finally changed. Do you think things have finally changed here from an organizational standpoint with the hiring of Jason Wright and Ron Rivera, or do you think that this could possibly rear its ugly head in the future?
So I'm going to be a skeptic of it until they prove otherwise. I want to wait and see. And I think that that's fair, and it's fair criticism of them because this, it's funny in the offseason when after Jay Gruden was hired and everyone was like yelling on Twitter, who's going to want that job? Nobody's going to want that job. I just like laughed at him. I'm like, Dan Snyder has hired Steve Spurrier. You can laugh at that if you want, but he did. Joe Gibbs, Marty Schottenheimer, Mike Shanahan. He's hired Hall of Fame people. Right. So it's not like that there isn't a demand for this job or that people look at it and they think it's like toxic and they can't touch it. And Ron Rivera didn't even interview with anybody else and took the job. So it ought to tell you everything you ought to know about his salesmanship and the ability to hopefully put what we think are the right people. To your larger question of, is this different now? Only Dan knows the answer to that, really. And, it's been, a few months for Rivera and a few weeks for everyone else until they show that they have imparted new standards and practices across the organization. I'll believe it when I see it. I do feel like for the first time that everyone is in sync with one another. Yep. And that's what's really been different about the past. Like, Jay Gruden didn't want them to draft Dwayne Haskins, but they did it anyway, and then he wouldn't play him. How does that ever win? Like, in what way does that ever win? Yeah. So, I do feel like there is an organizational structure that's at the very beginning stage of it, but at least there's a structure there that feels like at least it's going in the right direction. And then it's up to them to pick the right people and for the players to play hard and take pride in wearing the uniform, and the fans to come back and get behind it again. And so, but I think we're in step one, but step one, at least this time, feels right and good. And I'll be optimistic about it because I'm sick of them losing.
Right. I really like that answer because I'm right there with you. I am legit about the way I feel this organization, that they have turned the corner. We hit rock bottom as an organization, and Dan kind of realized and took a step back. Now, earlier, Bram, you had alluded to the embarrassment of talent there on the defensive line for this team. So I have to ask you, if your prediction, where do you think this team, this defensively on this team, where are they going to rank at the end of the season?
Defensively, I think they should be a top 10 defense. And I don't think they have much of an excuse behind that. I mean, Ryan Kerrigan's a backup on this team.
Right.
That is, you name me a better pass rushing backup on a team.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, is their linebacking core, solid enough? I don't know, but it does feel like they have people there that they potentially could rely on.
They've got a
Are
good
their
rotation.
corners good enough? I don't know, but their pass rush has the makings of being outstanding, which should help them. And on the back end, Landon Collins, who to me is really more of a linebacker than really a safety, he ought to eat people up in this because teams are going to have to get the ball out fast on them. There's no way around that. We're too strong on the edge now with Kerrigan, Young, and Sweat. And the interior is strong too with Payne, Allen, and Ioannidis. We have waves of people that can come through. I can't see quarterbacks having a lot of time against them, which means quick plays, which means Landon Collins ought to be eating people up. And there shouldn't be time for deep passes against them. Right. So I like that in the modern NFL where everybody wants to throw the ball. I like that we have what appears to be a very strong pass rush. So I think that this could be a top 10. I think early returns with this coaching, this could be a top 10 defense. The real question is the other side of the ball. I mean, there's gaping holes at positions. Like it doesn't look like they have a pass catching tight end. I don't know what the left side of their offensive line looks like. The running backs have a lot of promise, but how are they utilizing them? It's very hard to kind of figure. And how does AP figure into something like that?
Right.
And while I love McLaurin, I think he's a hit and I love him. Do they really have someone on the opposite side of the field that they can rely on early? I don't know. I don't think we know the answer to that. And then the biggest question of all, is Haskins a good NFL quarterback?
Right.
And if he is, I think this team trends upward fast.
Yeah.
If he isn't, then we're going to have a lot of decisions to make. But I'm hoping the defense makes them competitive this year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Now, Bram, got a couple more for you before we let you go. We know you're a busy guy. Alex Smith, do you think he steps onto the field at any point this season?
So I saw him practice the other day, which was practically unbelievable. I think that is more up to Ron Rivera than Ron Rivera wants to let on. I think Alex Smith I'm done doubting him, and I think he wants to do this for whatever reason he wants to do it. And it's going to be up to Ron Rivera, who, as a head coach, has had to put a lot of people who've been injured back on the field and play and know that their health and safety is at risk. This one's different.
Right.
So I'd like to know how he really feels about this because while it may not be literally more dangerous than some of the other ones in the past, it certainly feels that way to me. So there is a part of me that goes, does Ron Rivera look at this I need to save this guy from himself because he's already proven a point and he doesn't need to prove it by running away from Fletcher Cox. So, you know what I mean? So I don't know, but I'm done doubting him. And if he's given the opportunity to do so, then yes, I do think he will play again.
Yeah, and everyone will absolutely love to hear that. I've said it last week. There will be books and movies made about this story because it's an amazing one to say the least. Now, the last question, Bram, that I have for you, I ask every guest that's come on here. I asked Julie Donaldson this last week. I'll ask it to you. If there was one player that you could predict to have the biggest impact, to transcend and the best under Ron Rivera, it's going to turn the corner as an NFL player under Ron Rivera and this coaching staff, who would you think it would be?
I mean, it's hard not to think it's going to be Chase Young.
Right.
I mean, Ron Rivera is defensive coach. Jack Del Rio is defensive coach. Both of them have had a lot of success with great edge rushers in the past. Julius Peppers, Von Miller, people like that. I'm hoping that's what we have here. And if that's what we have here, then the defense is going to be different. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him. He's a rookie, but I am hoping that's the person that I've pinned my hopes to. And then secondarily, Montez Sweat's in his second year. All the attention's going to the guy on the opposite side. You're a first round pick too. Let's see it.
And he's a freak.
They may have two people that are able to get to the quarterback at the highest of levels. And I think Sweat is benefiting from everybody's paying attention to the other guy, and they're going to have to. So I'd like to see a massive jump in improvement of his play. And that starts with the coaching, which is he ain't dropping back in coverage anymore, which is ridiculous, right? Tell that guy to go get the ball and let's see how it works out. And I think that in both cases, and maybe Sweat quicker because it's year 2 for him, you might see a bigger impact from him, and that one's going to go under the radar. And I don't know why everyone forgot he's a first-round pick too, but we'll see.
Yeah, you know what? you are the third person now that we've had say Montez Sweat or mention Montez Sweat. So that's good. That bodes very well. People forget how talented he is, how athletic he is.
They traded up to get him.
Right, exactly. And he was a freak of nature at the
Yes.
combine. He was very good at Mississippi State, and he's not gonna be able to be double teamed at all this year.
That's right. He should have a lot of freedom. They should be able to
Yeah.
work some stuff with him. And then the interior of the defensive line is strong
Exactly.
too. I mean, just the whole package there. This is the first time since I think Greg Williams was running the defense under Gibbs.
Right.
That
you're
I
excited
feel
about
like
it.
that their front is going to be a massive strength. Like they've had good players like Kerrigan. They have not had the total package here that's come together, and they've got a good 3 to 4 year window before they have to start paying guys like Payne, Allen, and Sweat, and have to make decisions like that. They've got 3 or 4 years here to figure it out with these guys where they're all cheap relative and under contracts and under the cap before they start having a problem with contracts. And so the time is now to take advantage of it, and hopefully they will.
And one last question I have for you. Have you heard anything about Sadiq Charles? That is a huge question mark, and nothing has been put out.
Nothing yet. I haven't heard anything about it yet.
Okay.
Nothing yet. And, at this point, I think teams are very careful. They normally are in general about all this type of stuff, but just in the climate and the atmosphere right now, they don't want rumors about what things may or may not be.
Okay.
So, I'll wait and see, but I don't know what's going on.
All right. Well, I appreciate you very much for coming on, Bram. And again, I can't congratulate you enough on getting essentially almost a dream job, being able to broadcast, be play-by-play for your favorite team. So much congratulations. It's well-deserved, Bram.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Take it easy.
All right.
I love hearing about this defensive line and what we think this defense can be.
Yeah.
This is so exciting for me right now because if you think about this pass rush, and I know we've talked about it numerous times, but it's going to make the secondary better. And the second thing that I was thinking after we talked to Bram was, could you imagine 100 years into the future, people are digging up artifacts and they find that signed pig snout, and they're just the person who lived here was 100% a serial killer.
And that was really cool to find out that he's a lifelong Washington football fan, and now he gets to do play-by-play. And it's a fresh breath of air because how many times have I complained about Troy Aikman and Joe Buck calling Washington games? Having to hear those two talk about the Washington team and not care about him at all. To hear that a Moco guy, Montgomery County fellow guy that grew up here, made it to big time, and now he's calling Washington games. I absolutely love that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, look, how many times we, like you said before, all the outside people and just people, like you said, they don't really care about the team. So, I mean, I love the additional D-Hall, even though he kind of dogged the team. I love London Fletcher on the sidelines. And
yeah, London's perfect.
Yeah, and now, like you said, a fellow Moco guy. So, hats off to him.
Yeah, so let's talk about real quick, guys. We had just alluded to this discussion with Bram. He didn't want to get into it, but look, Sadiq Charles was a no-show again at practice today. Obviously, not that he didn't show up. There is just some sort of injury going on, and Ron hasn't alluded to it like Bram has said. So we have to talk about it. Is this panic mode for the left side of the line? Should the Washington football team go sign some other guys?
I think he's one of Darius Geis's accusers, and he's trying to. I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
Oh, Lord.
I'm sorry. No, but it's scary. It's not. I know that Ron Rivera, he kept Chase Young. He limited him in practice his second day on the field just because of a hip flexor. He didn't want to take any risks. So it could be something where Ron just isn't willing to take a risk from somebody who he thinks can really contribute at an important position. But at the same time, him not being out there at all is very concerning. I mean, that's just what is it that's happening?
Yeah, because I think because look, like we said with Chase Young, he has a hip flexor, but he's out there, right?
He was out there.
My whole thing is the reason why he's not out there is because they don't want him out there, because if you see whatever he's doing, you're going to notice something.
Right.
And that's where I'm kind of thinking, maybe he has a cast on, maybe he has a noticeable limp. Maybe hopefully this isn't a Kelvin Harmon situation, and in a couple weeks we're going to find out that Sadiq Charles has already had surgery and he's recovered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now I'm going to give it a 6 on the panic meter out of 10, just because,
that's
like
good.
you alluded to. Yeah, just like you alluded to. I mean, if it was something minor, you would hope to see him out there just like Chase Young around the guys, kind of watching what's going on. But the fact that he's kind of, like you say, tucked away and hidden, and kind of everyone's keeping their mouth closed, which again could be a good thing, because how many leaks have been going on throughout the years where he's just oh, that got out. Oh, that got out.
Right.
I mean, like the Kelvin Harmon thing, like you said. I mean, no one knew about that for a month or so until
Right.
he put it on
Right.
Twitter. So, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with a 6 just because hopefully it's something minor, and then they just like you said, they just want to keep him kind of getting a treatment in the back in the locker rooms or in the facility. But hopefully it's just one of those things where I know they have a day off tomorrow, so he's just giving them the rest of the week off, and he'll be back freshly on, I guess, Saturday,
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday, whatever. And hopefully he'll get some scrimmage time because again, with no preseason, a rookie like that is definitely going to need it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with an 8 on the worried meter, honestly, just because
I don't blame you.
I think that him not being out there at all is just not a good sign. Like a rookie coming in,
Yep.
you would need him out there on the field to at least learn what's going on, to see it, and if it wasn't serious, he could at least walk through and do some things that are. So it really concerns me, actually. I'm a little bit more worried just because I think maybe I also had too high expectations for Sadiq this year, but it's worrisome, man. Left tackle is the most important position on the field outside of quarterback. So
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Reed. I think it's about an 8 around there because look, this is a rookie offensive lineman that was a 4th-round pick that is expected to contribute to this team this year. And in a shortened and crazy, ridiculous offseason,
right.
him missing time in the period of time that they have been given to practice and be with each other, he's not there. I think it's a huge sign. It's a big warning sign right in our face. I think we have to be ready for some sort of news that something possibly happened. Hopefully it's just something with COVID, maybe a false positive or something along the lines of that instead of an actual injury. But I think there is something going on here. There is a reason why he's not being seen. Either it's because of COVID or I think that there is something noticeable.
That's true. I completely forgot COVID was a thing. That could be it. I hope so.
It's
But
so funny. It took like a week.
yeah, don't they release the names of the players that tested positive usually?
It's
but
like
then again,
it's like one of those things where it's up to the player. Like
okay,
the team can't release it, but the player says, "Hey, you can tell him."
Okay, yeah. Maybe he's maybe he's
But if it was though, you would think. I mean, maybe it was like a false positive, but you would think if it was like something like COVID, then like there would be other noticeable players like missing out of practice too that have like been in contact or around.
Right.
Right.
So I'm not gonna lie, you guys are kind of convincing me. I'm at like 8 right now because yeah, because like now I'm just like sketched out where I'm just like, yeah, man, Calvin Harmon didn't put it out until like a month after, so like even none of the beat reporters knew about that. So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm at an 8.
So speaking of the offensive line and the panic meter, the offensive line hasn't looked all that well. Well, in regards to the practices that have gone down that the media has been able to be at. There has been a lot of dominance by the defensive line. And so I want to get your guys' what is your panic meter with the offensive line? Do you think it's that bad?
Yeah, like I've said, the left side of the line when you have a right-handed quarterback is the most important part of the offensive line, especially that blind side protector. And we don't have left tackle or left guard figured out. It really kind of depends on who you listen to. Some reporters are saying that Jerron Christian's actually playing pretty decent. Some of them are saying that they're just getting destroyed every play.
Right.
So I don't know how to take it necessarily, but it's kind of to be expected going up against this defensive line. But yeah, I'm pretty worried about that left side because if you have a young quarterback like Haskins, who yes, he has made some plays with his feet, but his game is really standing in the pocket and throwing the football. You want to protect him as well as you can, and it is concerning. I mean, with our history of injuries, I don't want anything to happen on that to a quarterback or a running back because that left side isn't stabilized. But I think the coaches know what they're doing. I am fairly concerned about the offensive line. Right side, center through right side, not as much. I think they're solid, but so I'm at about a 7 with worry for the offensive line. But I do think that is our biggest weakness.
Yeah, I'll go. I was gonna say a 6 or a 7, so I'll split it down the middle and say 6.5. Like you said, the left side is kind of like the right side is obviously solid. That's 3 guys that we know is gonna do their job and do it well at a high level. The left side again with all the flux in and out, like the Wes Martins, Cornelius,
Wes Schweitzer,
Christian, all those guys. I mean,
and they brought in some people like Joshua Garnett.
They've been bringing in some guys here and there throughout the week. I know it's still early in camp, so they're not really like set on like a set 5, so they can actually like learn and gel together. That would be what the preseason is for. But yeah, I'll go 6.5 just because I know that the offense they can scheme around the kind of a lot of deficiencies, and if they can at least run block. If their pass blocking is kind of deficient, at least if the front five can run block well enough to kind of set up their play action, which hopefully again can kind of back the defense off the rush off a little bit and get the ball down the field. And if they have a strong run game, then that'll again hide some of the deficiencies on the left side. But I'll definitely go 6.5, and by the end of this scrimmage, I might be higher than that if depending on how they look. But again, you also got to think when you're going against guys like Ryan Kerrigan, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, like a strong defensive line. Obviously, the offensive line is going to look kind of crappy, but again, you should be holding your own. You're an NFL player, so I'll go 6.5. And it's on the rise.
I'm lower than you guys. I'm not panicked at all with the offensive line. I think it's like a 4, a 3, or a 4.
So
I'm not too crazy about it, honestly, because look, this defensive line is that good. And whenever you talk about spring ball, if you talk to people around baseball, around the major league, whenever spring training, whenever they after spring training and the regular season opens, it's a known thing that the pitchers always get the better of the batters at first. Yeah. And there is a reason for that. And that is because they have been working longer than the other guys have been able to gel. Now, defensively, it's a lot easier to play together than it is for a quarterback to be able to link up with his wide receiver or offensive line to be able to gel together and work together. So that's what you're seeing. The offensive line is not gelling together very fast. They're not playing crazy a lot really well, but the fact is it's going to make them better. The fact that they're getting their butt kicked is awesome because that means that the defensive line is as good as we are saying they are, and our offensive line is going to be challenged every single practice. So when they go against these other teams, they're going to like, oh, this is like patty cake compared to what I go through in practice every day. I mean, I watched that interaction between I believe it was Chase Royer and Jonathan Allen. And oh my goodness, I mean, the violence that was coming just from that interaction, I was absolutely in love with because, it just shows that they're attacking on both sides of the ball. And I'm not worried about it. I think that once they go against some other competition, it's not against our guys that are legitimately really good. I mean, like, they were even making fun of, like, Ryan Kerrigan beating Morgan Moses at practice yesterday. It's Ryan Kerrigan. It's going to happen sometimes, dude. Why are we highlighting that? I'm not concerned by it. I'm more concerned about Sadiq Charles more so than anything. I think they're just doing the carousel. They're just moving guys in and out, in and out, in and out. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're completely right. Like we talked about, I think it was on Tuesday, like what defensive line is this offensive line going to go up against, say, for maybe the San Francisco 49ers during the regular season that is as good as our defensive line? Like nobody. The 49ers are the only team that you can be like, okay, well, their defensive line is set. But nobody else that we're going to really face this year has a defensive line like we do. So iron should sharpen iron.
Yeah, and Chase Young has a hip flexor, according to Ron Rivera. He sat out of practice again today. But I will say, I don't know if this is actually legit, to be perfectly honest with you. I feel like if the media was not available at practice today, that Chase Young would be practicing.
Yeah, I think it's something where if it wasn't this situation where there's no preseason, where there's all this stuff, Rivera would just be like, all right, go play. You're fine, play. But they don't want to risk anything happening at all to him because he's your Lamborghini.
Yeah, it was a wet field yesterday, too.
Right,
that was the one thing I was concerned about.
You can't even risk that. And like Rivera said, you don't want to take something that is just a 4 or 5 day injury and turn it into a few week thing. Right. So he's out. So, I mean, I get why they're not practicing him.
Yeah, I mean, y'all hit all the points. I mean, took all the answers, made all the great points.
I just honestly,
that's it.
I just honestly think
Montez Sweat, man.
I was just about to say that was a very Montez Sweat answer.
I legit just think that Ron Rivera didn't want the media to see Chase Young. To be perfectly honest with you,
I mean,
I just don't want him. I just think that he just doesn't want that broadcast.
You know what's funny? I was actually scrolling through Twitter and Stephon Gilmore, he retweeted like a picture of like Stephon Diggs just literally breaking someone's ankles.
Well, that was such a bad route. I know that was a great route and everything, but that route took so long to open that like would rarely work on a play.
Shit, have you seen some of Stephon Diggs' routes down the field with Minnesota?
No, I know, but I'm talking about that one in particular that he ran. Yeah, where like he like runs all the way to the back of the end zone and then runs like 3 or 4 times in between before running back to the end zone. So I'm just saying, like, during usual football plays, like that kind of route doesn't succeed.
Well, there was one where he literally just did like a little I guess like a post like out posting out, and he just like
Oh,
broke the dude's
Yeah,
ankles.
yeah, I saw that
And
one. Yeah.
Stephon Gilmore was like, "Oh, thanks for showing me your goal line routes or something like that." And I was just like, started thinking, I was like, man, since there's no preseason, there's no like really like
yeah.
scouting people's offenses and defenses. What if players really are using Twitter to be like, oh, that's his tendencies and stuff like
Right.
that?
No,
So
1,000% teams are
And
doing that
yeah,
without a doubt.
I
and
mean, yeah,
that
if I thought about it, then
yeah.
clearly like they probably thought about it. So
But yeah, and like we talked about
The
that can
Belichick drones.
yeah, that can also kind of benefit
yeah,
the Washington football team because nobody in the NFC East that knows how this defense or this offense is going to run. They don't know what
mhm.
plays they're going to run. They don't know the schemes that they're going to scheme up. They don't know the motions, which apparently Scott Turner is doing a lot of. They don't know
I told
anything
y'all
that's going
nobody
to
want to
happen.
listen.
So
Oh,
it's
I knew.
yeah, I know too. We all listen, Kyle. We all no,
I just have to say it.
but no, like that can only benefit the Washington football team. And I keep almost saying Redskins. I have to stop myself. Still, it's been
I also
weeks. I'm
saw
not used to
Darius
it.
Slay get like
Oh
fried,
yeah,
like
he got
broken down
destroyed. Yeah,
by some no name dude. I
but
was just like, huh,
everyone has to
Terry McLaurin's
remember
gonna
though.
kill you.
Everyone
Yeah,
has to remember in those on those practices, those drills, it's geared towards the wide receiver
Oh yeah, I
succeeding.
know,
100%.
I
You
know, I
know,
Yeah,
know.
like there's
right.
no pass rush, there's no safety help over the top. Like it's literally one on one. You're on an island. More times than not, the wide receiver should win that every
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
time.
without a doubt, without a doubt. I'm
that
just
was
saying, Redskins or Washington should be taking notes. Like he cannot cover the in and out
Oh
very
yeah,
well
no,
because
without a
right.
doubt.
he
I'm
got burned.
But that was just like the Marlon Humphrey, who is I hate to admit it because of how we feel about Ravens fans lately, but
right.
how is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and he got destroyed one on one by Hollywood Brown, and it was just like you saw Marlon Humphrey go up to Hollywood Brown after that, put his arm around him, and just walk back with him, and he was just like, God damn, that double move you put on me. Oh my God. Like, and there's nothing you can do because once somebody like Hollywood Brown gets a little separation from you, what can you do about that? Same thing
Right.
with Henry Ruggs. There's a video of Henry Ruggs doing something similar today. And it's just like, God, these fast, quick wide receivers during these practices are owning. I don't think it's really going to be like that necessarily on game day.
Right.
Yeah.
And so regarding to the pre-snap motions that we have alluded to, that seems to be the talk of the training camp among the media members. And two guys that have benefited from this type of offense is Bryce Love and Antonio Gibson. So far throughout training camp, they have really impressed, and Gibson especially on the outside with this kind of gap scheme where they run these zone runs, the outside kind of runs. Gibson is destroying. What was your
Yeah.
guys'? I mean, what else have you heard?
Yeah, I've heard that Bryce Love looks fantastic. He looks like he looked before his injury. And Ron Rivera also said that it's good to see that Bryce Love can do some things that he didn't even get to showcase in college, like
Yeah.
catching the football. Like he's a lot more similar to Christian McCaffrey, I think, than people realize. But Antonio Gibson, man, all the things that I've been reading about him and J.D. McKissick too are all solid things. They say that once those guys get an opening, they're gone. And we'll watch Antonio Gibson hit the hole and turn the corner and just go. He's gone. And once he sees daylight. And that was one thing that Antonio Gibson, when we did the scouting breakdown, I talked about. He's not necessarily a north-south runner, but on stretch plays and getting him the ball outside and letting him kind of dance around and find an opening and head towards the sideline, he's so good at those plays. And it's good to see them utilize him like that because that's the bread and butter with him.
Yeah, and to hear Love impressing is even better because look,
Yeah.
with the departure of Darius Geis, look, the Washington football team is looking for their number 2 running back. Who's going to take that besides Adrian Peterson? You know, is it going to be J.D. McKissick, who's looked good as well? And I would absolutely love to see what they have with Bryce Love. I've talked about him before in previous pods, saying that he's a possible lightning in a bottle. You know,
Yeah.
possible superstar. And so let's see what he has in the chamber there. Because look, this offense could have multiple running backs on the field at one in any given play, and having Antonio Gibson and Bryce Love on the field at one time, that's a whole lot of speed.
Right. And Bryce Love could be a lightning to Adrian Peterson's thunder
Yeah.
that quick. But anyway, go ahead, Hall.
No, yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say, you guys know how I feel about Antonio Gibson. I was extra psyched when he drafted him because for the one, maybe two times I randomly watched Memphis on ESPN at like 12 o'clock because I had nothing else better to do on Saturday. He's the guy that stood off the whole screen to me. But so yeah, I'm definitely excited about him. Good to hear that he's making big plays in practice. Obviously, it's just practice, and they're not going 100%, but still, for him to showcase the kind of explosion of speed and kind of quickness that he has, just against a pretty stout, what looks like a pretty stout defense, is going to be great for this offense going forward. And as far as Bryce Love, again, that's a guy that again I watched a lot of Stanford games. I watched a lot of highlights from Bryce Love back in college. I know the injury made him drop, and I've said it before. I felt bad that he got injured, but I was psyched because they made him drop to the Redskins or to Washington. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do, and just to hear him say that he's been talking to Christian McCaffrey this offseason, kind of asking him like what kind of role and like what can he do in Scott Turner's offense, and like
So awesome.
all the ins and outs about it, just learning and picking his brain about it. I mean,
Yeah,
anything
perfect.
that you try to mirror off Christian McCaffrey is gonna
Right.
hopefully go well and bode well. And just like who was it that said it? I think Lake Lewis said about like not a lot of people remember that Bryce Love took over with Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, and there wasn't a lot of drop off. If
Yeah.
not even better
Wow, he
production.
played better. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, yeah, those two guys are hopefully going to have a big impact on this offense, and I cannot wait because, like you said, no preseason. They're going to come out and hopefully surprise people.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, speaking of Darius Geis's departure, his name got pulled back into the news. There has apparently been an investigation unearthed from I'm not sure if it was a Washington Post reporter. I forget
Like
where.
the Washington Journal or something. Like
Yeah, and so what they did, there was 2 LSU freshmen that went to.
Or no, it was like USTA Today or something.
Oh yeah, it was USA Today.
Yeah, it was something
That
big.
2 former classmates of Darius Geis's that went to LSU are accusing him of rape back when they were a freshman, and the Washington football team came out and said that this is the first that they had heard about it. You know, that they heard about it the day before they released him, and this was but they didn't have any of that in their explanation for releasing Darius, you know?
Right.
And in my opinion, I think this is a bad thing on everyone involved. If the Washington football team wasn't aware of these allegations, that is a problem. Why didn't you do your homework on somebody that's going to be a second-round pick? You should, if Ron Rivera took him off his draft board in Carolina, he had heard something. Why didn't the Washington football team? Now, I'm not going to say maybe that's our scouts' fault for not working hard enough or whatever. Maybe they did reach out to LSU, and LSU didn't respond and didn't have any comment, whatever have you. Then that's on LSU. But I just want to make sure that it is a problem that the Washington football team did not know until the day before they released him. What was your reaction, Hall?
I'll put majority of the blame on LSU because if you read the article, the chick, first of all, one of them was like a teammate's girlfriend, a teammate of Darius Geis' girlfriend. I think she was a tennis player or something like that.
Yeah.
And she went and told the coaching staff, the AD, and all those people, and they just brushed it under the rug. There was obviously some like alleged quote by Coach O that, oh, everyone's girlfriend like hooks up with everyone, you know, something like that. Just kind of like dismissing it. So
I think what you were referring to is the athletic director. The dad of the girl that had the victim approached the AD and said something about the allegations, and the AD turned around and said, "I don't believe her." I think was the quote.
Right. Well, now there was another quote from Coach O that he acted the teammate of Darius Geis, the chick's boyfriend.
Yeah, I was referring to the first quote you had.
Yeah. But anyway, long story short, like I said, I put most of the blame on LSU because again, you can do your research, you can ask people around the campus, and if people around the campus are saying one thing, like students and people that he's close to, well, not really people that he's close to, but if there's like a known reputation around the campus, that's one thing. But if the coaching staff, the people that are around him every single day, are giving him glaring endorsements and stuff like that, you know, you're probably gonna go with the people that are like know him or around him every single day.
Right.
But I will say, again, we don't know this, but what if Bruce Allen knew about this and did his homework and was kind of just, oh, you know, I'm gonna take him anyway because again, with the whole Ruben thing, everyone scolded him and like obviously it ended up turning out for the better because the chick lied. But again, that was like Bruce being like, oh, I talked to my inside sources and Ruben will be good. Maybe he had inside sources at LSU that told him one thing, but it was really another thing.
Well, that's my thing is like where the Washington football team said and came out, they found out the day before. Now, if Bruce knew, then he would have told other people at the organization, and the organization would have known. That's my point.
Yeah, you're right.
And also, I mean, nobody ever talks about this, but right after Darius Geis was drafted, Doug Williams came out and he had a press conference. And He was asked about Darius Geis because so many teams passed him over, and remember at one point it was Saquon Barkley, then Darius Geis.
Yeah,
so they were the 2 best running backs in the draft, all leading up to it for a while. And Doug Williams said, look, he's like, we did more homework on him than anybody. We know everything about this guy. We have inside information. Plus, we're basically from the same town. I know the same people that he knows. We dug deep into Darius. Darius does not have any character issues. He does. Clearly, the guy has an anger problem. He hates women. Clearly, allegedly, I should say. But it's disgusting, and it does really make you think that like this type of stuff wouldn't have flown under Ron Rivera. Obviously,
Right.
that took him off his draft board. I mean, they knew something, and if Bruce Allen did know something about this and just didn't care and drafted him anyway because he thought he could help the football team, then shame on you. I mean, Darius is facing a lot of stuff right now. Like, people don't understand it. Not only is Darius Geis facing assault from on three separate occasions from this woman and a strangulation charge, of course, which is a felony. He's being accused of rape from 2 different women. He also has multiple traffic violations right now about him speeding just from this past June and being ignorant, which is, I think it was like something like he was going 50 miles per hour over the speed limit.
Jeez.
And this dude is
95
just
95 and a 45.
Yeah, it's something stupid like that. Like this
you don't do that in Virginia.
No, especially not in Virginia. This guy is literally ruining his life right now. And I think that the most disturbing part of it is that none of us knew this. Like, I used to always make jokes about Darius and kind of make fun of him because he seemed a little, like he would always do the cookie face, like somebody had a pocket full of cookies. But like he was acting like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Like, he really was. Like, people, like us fans, accepted him, and
he was a fan favorite.
He was a fan favorite. He was
a media favorite.
Yeah, exactly. He was having like video Twitch streams with fans. He invited fans to go to the movie theater.
He
with
met
him
the president.
Yeah, and he was like, but how scary is that like somebody like that we all love is being accused of such heinous things? Like, when I read the first reports about him strangling his girlfriend until she was unconscious and then him crying and tapping her to wake her up, like that like made me sick to my stomach. And then now you have this reports come out about 2 women accusing him of rape in 2016, and it's just like, how did this guy, like, we all loved this guy and he was a monster. Like this, it almost gives you like a Bill Cosby feel to it. It really does. Where it's like,
it's one of those things he's been getting away with it clearly since his freshman year, and maybe God knows even before that. Who knows? Hopefully not. But it's one of those things where he's like, oh, I can keep doing it because I keep getting away with it, so I'll be good. But
clearly, the dude, like, I know the guy has had a tough life. I know his father was killed when he was young. That was very hard on him. But it's just like he clearly has something against women, or he just doesn't care about women, and he needs help for that.
Societal problem.
Yeah, and he what he deserves, if these are true, which I'm leaning towards they are. I'm just gonna say that because I don't think that all this would be coming out if it was just made up. I think that Darius Geis should 100% be in jail for a very long time, and I hope he gets the help that he needs while he's in there, but he definitely has to serve time for this, man. Like, this kid ruined his life completely. Had all the talent in the world, and he just ruined his life.
Yeah, and I think a lot needs to be said about what you had alluded to in your beginning with Doug Williams.
Why
Much
isn't anybody asking Doug Williams?
As much as we want to keep positive about everything that's happening, we also have to be here and say, why didn't you guys see this? This was your expertise. You said you looked into this and you cleared him. Obviously, there was something else there, and they would not. I can guarantee they would not have co-signed if they knew the kind of stuff that he was up to.
If Ron Rivera is the type of guy that everyone says he is, and he's been treating this the way that he has, I'm pretty sure he went to Doug Williams at some point and said, "Doug, what the hell?"
Yeah,
that could also be why maybe Doug Williams. That's why he took less of a role with the team last season.
That's a good
point.
point.
It goes to show you, like I said before, just maybe they said they knew a day before, but maybe they did know this stuff, and that's why they're bringing in the Peyton Barbers, the J.D. McKissicks, and stuff like that.
That's what we talked about. That makes a lot of sense. Drafting Antonio Gibson, bringing in Peyton Barber, bringing in J.D. McKissick.
That's why I legit feel like Ron Rivera knew what was good. He found out something in Carolina, and he found out something about Darius Geis, and he took him off his board, and he wanted to make sure people knew about it. And look, I don't want to sit here and spread conspiracy theories. I'm just saying I feel like Ron Rivera was the one that leaked that. Leaked at the day of, that he took him off his draft board for a reason, and I felt like he wanted people to know. And my thing is, it shows reluctance from the Washington football team, like almost like they turned a blind eye, like they didn't want to see it, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. And like, I'm not trying to...
That's the old regime. That's the past 20 years, though. And again, like I said, we were texting, it's like, if that's what's going on in the front office and allegedly, like, with some of the players and coaches and whatever else, and who knows what's true and not true.
Right.
But it just goes to show you that, like, they're just like, well, it's just him losing control a couple times with a couple women here and there. Like, he'll be good. We can control him. So,
This dude is a serial assaulter of women. Like, this guy, like, he has a track record now of being abusive, and he's a rapist, allegedly. And all I'm going to say to women out there is, if you see Darius Geis run in zigzags, I guarantee he tears his ACL.
I knew that was coming.
It's so messed up.
Well, he always gets hurt. I hate him.
Right.
If these things are
Man, I feel bad because I was on the past like month, maybe in 2 months, I've been just killing people on Twitter and just hitting them with the haters and like the Darius guy stiff arm.
Yeah, I made a couple memes about that.
Oh, you know how many people came back at me and were just like, "So what's up?" Blah blah blah. And I was just like,
yeah, I guess got to take it on the chin.
Yes,
I was wrong. I caught the L. We were all wrong about him.
Right. And sorry, what were you saying, Reed?
Oh, I was just going to move on. Speaking of one of Darius Geis' replacements.
Okay, go ahead.
To talk to the media today. Okay, well, yeah, one of Darius Geis' replacements, one of Mike Hall's favorite players, somebody that he has always said could be a fantastic player in this league if he is healthy. Bryce Love, who has really made a name for himself. Of course, he made a name for himself at Stanford, but he was forgotten about for a while, and he's kind of reemerged here since training camp has started. And he's played very well. He spoke to the media today. He had a lot of interesting things to say. Like you said, he talked to Christian McCaffrey, which is perfect for him because they went to Stanford together. They know each other. They play the same position. And now he has the same offensive coordinator that Christian McCaffrey had. He talked to Christian McCaffrey about playing in Scott Turner's new system, and he knows that there's only one Christian McCaffrey, but he wants to find ways to use his skill set in Washington's new offense. And Love said that he feels good since his recovery. The time has been a blessing, he said, because he was able to focus on his rehab and get back to football. He's happy to be where he is today on the field and learning through physically going through reps. And I just love to hear that he's feeling good. He's apparently playing good. And this is the kind of news that we need out of that running back room ever since the Darius guys. Yeah. So I love it. I love what he's doing. I love the approach he's taking, being healthy, being thankful, not taking anything for granted, and also talking to a good friend like Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, and from the press conferences today, the one quote that stood out to me was Ryan Anderson. When he spoke to reporters, he said that Reuben Foster was the best player that he's ever played with, but also there was a good question asked to him about Reuben Foster. You know, he says that he was the best player he ever played with, and he said, is he back at that level? And Ryan Anderson there took a little bit, was hesitant to say, but he was like, he's back to being an elite player, but he's not where he was before. So look, he's close to it, and I'm so happy to hear that from Ryan Anderson.
Yeah, and that was the end of the quote. When healthy, he's the best that I've ever been around. So I mean, look, from someone from people saying that he might not even be able to come back because he didn't have feeling in his foot and he had nerve damage from his PCL and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like Alex Smith worthy, but for him to like rehab,
it's so serious.
That's what I'm saying. For him to rehab the way he did and come back, and maybe even, I'm not going to say he's going to be a starter week 1, but he's definitely going to get a heavy rotation probably week 1, and most likely he's going to make an impact on this team. I think that once he gets back to like fully being Reuben Foster, we'll see that guy that Ryan Anderson was talking about at Alabama.
Yeah, but I completely agree, and I love that Reuben Foster. He's somebody who I loved coming out that year, the year that we took Jonathan Allen. I was so surprised that Foster was falling as far as he did, and his career's been so sad because he's never really had the opportunity to show what he can do. And now I hope that he remains healthy and he's going to get a shot because he's easily the most talented linebacker that we have on this team. I mean, in terms of skill and his ability, 100%. So I think he will make an impact.
Yeah, and what we heard from the coaching staff, he's taking it very seriously as well.
Yeah. Right.
All right, everybody. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this show. I wanted to let you guys know on Sunday, I will be joining and combining forces with the DC Tweet team, with Redskins Addicts, and the Washington Brawl. We're going to be doing a joint. We're going to be doing a joint episode on Sunday. Make sure you guys check that out. It's going to be one heck of a show. You don't want to miss that one. And then we're also just want to let you guys know we're on Google Pods. We're on Spotify now. We're on iTunes, YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at The Burgundy Zone. You can find Hall at TBZ Money Mike. You can find Mike Reed at 301. And you can find Mike at Mike Reed 2156.
And at Funny Danny.
I'm
never going to not say that.
Thank you so much to Bram Weinstein. Again, congratulations for him on his new job. I can't wait to watch these games and hear his commentary. Thank you so much for him for stopping by. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And I just saved a bunch of money on my car insurance by switching to Geico.
Oh, goodness. Of course you did. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you on Tuesday. Washington football. Woo!
Audio Jungle.